All right. Hello, everybody out there in LinkedIn. Very nice to be live with you again. Today, Wednesday at noon Eastern, seems to be the time that I go live every week, pretty much. And I'm with Kyler Miles. Kyler, how are you, my man?
Good, my man. I'm missing seeing that pretty face of yours in the office.
I I don't know how to take that. I'm not sure how to reply. That's okay. That's a good way to start it.
Yeah.
So how you doing? So you're in your home office. Obviously, we're in Montreal lockdown mode. Where are you exactly? What part of Montreal are you in?
I'm in the South Shore in Delson, so maybe like half an hour away from the city.
Delson. Okay, yes, I know Delson. It's a nice little town. You got to cross that bridge though, which is a pain in the butt. You have to cross the Mercier Bridge, correct?
Mercier or the Champlain, depending on traffic. But
Okay.
now that we're in lockdown, of course, commute is literally from my bed to the desk, so it's quite easy to get to work now.
Is your home office in your bedroom?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you one of those people that has an unmade bed as their background? I hope not. No.
Well, today was a rough day. And today, I got to say, it's unmade, unfortunately. It's tidy, but it's unmade.
Okay, I should probably say that I cannot see you. I'm just looking right at the camera, so I'll take your word for it that you've got a nice background. So what are we talking about today? All right, enough of this boring small talk. I don't even know. So everyone, I don't even know what we're talking about today. I have a little bit of an idea because I saw the graphic, the thumbnail. Did you do that thumbnail by yourself, by the way? Did you do it?
Rico made the template,
Rico.
and then I kind of just tweaked it a bit. So that's
Okay.
Kudos to Rico, our graphic designer. He makes awesome content.
Yeah, Rico's great. Okay. So what's the subject matter today as I take a sip of my tea?
Yeah, so over the year 2020, we've collected a lot of different questions, and what we've kind of done is took those questions, looked at the categories, and we've noticed that a lot of them are around staff augmentation. So we're going to be doing a Q&A with you. I'm going to ask you rapid fire questions, and we're just going to have a conversation about overall web development, but staff augmentation as a focus. Okay. And then any questions that come from LinkedIn. So I have LinkedIn in the corner here, so I'll keep that as a monitor if questions come in. But yeah, I just want to keep it really kind of casual, loose, and just answer some of these questions that we've collected over the last year.
Okay, nice. Staff augmentation. That's definitely a great subject.
So to kick us off, Tony, maybe we can just start with actually what is staff augmentation, because I'm sure a lot of people out there know, but in case they don't, let's give them a definition. Let's give them from our perspective, what is staff augmentation?
Okay, so yeah, that's a good place to start. So staff augmentation, if you look at the words, right? Staff augmentation. So you want to increase your staff, right? You need to staff up. You need to increase the number, and we're talking about PHP development, obviously. So I'll keep it focused on PHP development. So you want to augment your staff. So for whatever reason, you do not want to hire full-time employees. Okay, so that's very important. Because a lot of companies, they will just hire more employees. But for whatever reason, and that's really another video, why would you use a firm instead of hiring in-house employees? But for whatever reason, you need to increase your team. You don't want to hire full-time employees. So you need to staff aug, right? You need to increase your staff. And it's literally outsourcing to outside of your organization. However, those resources are considered an extension of your current team. So that's a good way to put it. Is staff augmentation is an extension of your current team. So let's say, for example, you have a 10-person team. So you might have, 8 PHP developers, a sysadmin, a designer. Um, whoever you augment your staff with are just going to be joining that team. So they will come onto your platforms, for example. Let's say you're using Jira as your project management tool or your ticketing system. They will be added to your Jira. They will be pretty much transitioned into your team as if they are full-time employees. However, there's many advantages to staff augmentation. But so far, does that make sense to you, Kyler, the way that I explained it?
Yeah, 100%. I really like what you said. That it's an extension to your team, and that kind of leads to another question: is like, how does that process work? Because physically, they're not part of the team. They're two different companies, and so maybe we can expand on that extension of the team. Like, how does that process work? So if I'm a company, I need to staff up, and I'm looking at Simply PHP because they're the best. And what's the process? What am I going to be going through with Simply PHP with staff augmentation?
Well, it's pretty much the same process you would go through if you hired a full-time employee. However, the vetting process is already done, right? So they're part of our company. They've already been proven. They've already been tested. We know that these are good resources. So that's a major, major advantage. You use resources that have a track record with the company that you're hiring, so that company is standing behind those resources, which is, super important. And it's another reason why companies will staff aug as opposed to hiring full time. But really, that's how it goes. That's how it works. You just augment your current staff, but you have a lot of flexibility that goes with it when it comes to start dates, when it comes to being able to expand or contract your team. I always think of, let's say you want to staff aug 3 additional resources and you hire those 3 additional resources as your full-time employees. You're not going to have much flexibility with expanding or contracting your team, or more contracting your team, right? You can't hire 3 new employees and then everyone's great. They might have moved to your town to be a part of your company, and then a few weeks later you say, you know what, we don't need you anymore, nice to know you. Like, you can't really do that, right? That's not a good solution. So when you're augmenting your staff with a company like Simply PHP, you have a lot of flexibility on both ends, whether it's reducing your team or expanding your team.
And you said something there, like, and flexibility is something that I'm taking out from what you're saying. Like, if I'm looking to staff augment my team, and if I hire 3 full-time employees versus looking at Simply PHP, that I could, are you saying that I could pause my resources at a certain time when that project is finished so that I don't have to continue paying that, in this scenario? Is that kind of what you're saying? Like, get that flexibility?
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head, Kyler. It's really being able to add to your team when needed or subtract from your team when needed. It's very, very, well, we have a very flexible solution anyway. And yes, pausing resources is something that's totally doable. And this comes up a lot. You can have a company that has a project that's moving forward that needs to staff aug in Q1, but in Q2, it's a different story. We've caught up, or requirements have been modified, requirements might have been reduced. So what do? You pause, right? Resource pausing is a great flexible solution for a growing team or a shrinking team. Of course, if you have a certain resource and you pause that resource indefinitely, obviously, look, we're a live company, right? So that resource, more often than not, could possibly get allocated somewhere else, unless we have if we have a resource pause situation where we actually know the dates. So if someone comes up to me and says, you know what, Tony, on the 1st of February, we want to pause, let's say Johnny, but we're going to ramp up again, let's say on the 1st of March. So if we know that we have a concrete date, then we won't let Johnny work on a project that goes past the 1st of March. However, if you do pause a resource indefinitely, in all transparency, right, I'm going to be honest, it's very possible that that resource will get put on something else. But
Right.
of course, we have to attack that when it comes, right? So if, in my example, 1st of February, you pause your resource and then you come back in April, if that resource is still available and you still like them, then by all means, we'll try our best to get them back without impacting another client, of course.
Yeah. That's interesting. So it sounds like there's no one way to do it. You really tailor to the customer. There's no cookie cutter kind of like, oh, this is how we work and too bad. You kind of tailor to the customer, if I'm hearing correctly. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say the only thing that's cookie cutter is flexibility. So any client that we have or any prospective client that we have, we try to be as flexible as possible. And that is the highlight of staff augmentation. For us anyway. For us, we are always trying to get into a staff augmentation scenario with our clients and with our prospects because that's what's best for our clients and that's what's best for us. It's always great to have clients that have technical leadership, whether it's a CIO, CTO, C-level exec with a technical background, company owner with a technical background. It's not compulsory. However, it's much smoother when we have a scenario like that. So staff augmentation, any company that has, in my opinion now, any company that has very strict parameters when it comes to providing staff augmentation services is not doing it the right way. They're missing the goal of staff aug. Staff aug needs to be seamless. It needs to be flexible. It needs to be fast. It needs to be, did I mention convenient? It's all about the client, right? If you are selling yourself as a staff augmentation agency or staff augmentation is part of your offering, you need to realize that you need to be flexible. You need to be fast. And we're in our 11th year now. So it took us a few years to realize that, but that's really the trick and the advantage of staff augmentation.
Right. So let's go through a scenario a little bit. Let's say, you talked a lot about having a technical leadership. Let's give an example where I don't have that leadership. Maybe I'm in transition with a new leader, and I don't know how many resources I need. Do you guys help with that process of helping us determine our needs as a business owner?
Yes, absolutely. I wouldn't say as a business owner I do that because my background is not in web development. So if we do have a client without technical leadership, we can definitely make it happen. We have an account manager who's quite technical. We have our lead developers in the company that obviously are lead developers for a reason. I think we have about 5 or 6 lead developers at Simply PHP that would jump in and help determine, based on the needs, based on the budget, how many resources based on the timeline, right? Based on the proposed timeline. How many resources would be needed, and in a case where Kyler, it really depends on the size of the project. It could be anywhere from a solitary developer from Simply PHP to a team of 10 or 20 developers.
Wow. I like that
Yeah.
because you guys are not only providing a service, you're providing consultancy, right? You guys are actually advising them and helping them grow, and not just providing like, here's a transaction, here's what you paid for. You're bringing more and more value to them by educating them, it sounds like, right? By bringing in these 4 to 5 lead developers that can help them determine what resources they need.
Yeah, well, what's important to realize is that we want everyone's project to succeed. Because if you succeed, we succeed. We don't charge funds in advance. So we got to make sure that we deliver. And in order to deliver, we sometimes have to help out in different ways, right? So if you're telling me that someone's coming to me with a big project and they don't have any technical leadership, um, that's rare that would happen. It happens that we have clients with a web business that they happen to create with their business idea that is very successful. It doesn't magically make them be super technical, or it doesn't magically make them a developer. That's usually when we come in and we'll assign a senior developer to make sure that they're on the right track. Because in the end, I don't want this to sound corny, but we have to succeed. If we don't succeed in delivering, then all is lost for our company. We really have to deliver, even if that means putting our foot down when it comes to certain solutions, even if that means walking away from projects that we don't see a path to success. It happens because we're very, very, very success driven.
Mm. Do people push you to go a certain way? Like, oh, I know this is the right way. Go this, I'm paying you. Do as I say, kind of deal. Is that really common, or is that kind of rare?
No, it's not really common, but it's happened. It's happened that people have been advised to go down a certain path, and we could inherit a project, or we could come in, halfway through a project and say, well, this is not really the right path to go, but we'll obviously provide the proper solution. But yes, it's happened. It's happened that clients have said, "Well, I don't care. I have to go down this path," and
Mm.
doesn't usually end well. But most clients are always very collaborative and have a good spirit of collaboration.
Right, right. So going again with this analogy, me being a business owner and coming to Simply PHP, what is like the lead time to get a resource working on my project? Is it days, weeks, months? Can you tell us about that process?
Yeah, that's another great question. So lead time to get started with us, honestly, it depends on what week we're talking about. For example, if you were to call me today and say, "Hey Tony, I would like a full-time resource to start as soon as possible, as early as tomorrow," which this actually happens. Um, I think we could probably pull it off, but it might be challenging. Normally, we need, I would say, a couple of weeks lead time. But again, it really depends on whenever you catch us. If you catch us this week, we could probably get someone full time. Actually, I think we have somebody becoming free next week. So if you called me now today, we would have a full time resource for you very easily to start next week.
Mm.
But you might call in a week where I have a couple of people available, because don't forget, the resources that work at Simply PHP are our full-time employees. Very, very important to call this out. So if one of our employees, one of our developers happens to not be on a project, they are there. They don't go anywhere. They're waiting. So we call that on the bench. We have a developer on the bench. What we do when we have a developer on the bench is we actually have some nonprofit websites that we work for. So we would allocate that developer to some of our nonprofit work, which obviously we don't charge for. That's a system that my business partner Raf and I dreamt up many years ago when we had some developers on the bench, and we said, well, they're not doing anything. What are we going to do? So we ended up reaching out to some nonprofit. We have a certain criteria in order to work with a nonprofit for free. We found some, and we will put them on those nonprofit projects. But first and foremost, they're standing by. So back to what I was talking about, if somebody would call me this week, the lead time would be less than a week. They may catch us at another week, let's say 2 or 3 weeks from now, when we might have somebody or even 2 or 3 people available. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so it depends.
Yeah, it depends. Exactly. But normally, historically, I would say that it's normally about a week, 2 weeks maximum lead time from initial call to assigning a resource.
Right. Hey, Tony, I'm just checking out some comments on LinkedIn, and I see there is one question in right now, so I can quickly go over that very quickly. So the question is it common for a client to request a developer indefinitely and exclusively?
Yeah, so that's a good question. All of our developers are exclusive to the clients that hire them, okay? So let me clarify. If you are hiring a resource at Simply PHP full-time, that is your resource. They're not going anywhere. They will be taken off your project for the following reasons. If they resign, if they get let go, if as a client you're not comfortable with them for whatever reason, they can be rotated in or out. But that's it. You know, the one of the way, like I said earlier, we want to succeed. One of the ways of succeeding is keeping the same resource on your project, because the longer someone is working on your project, the more they learn about it, the faster they become, the more effective they become. Keep in mind that we steer away from having one resource on your project and one resource only. That's a little bit of a recipe for disaster. So we make sure that there's at least one other person in the company that is aware of your project and aware of what's going on in case something happens, like we said in another video, the bus factor, right? We want to make sure that we have a backup for your resource in case something happens. You won't, as a client, be too impacted. But yeah, so to answer that question, and it's a great question, if you want to know how to not succeed on a project, keep rotating people. That's the way to not succeed on a project. So we're very stable. We especially if you really like a resource, we try to keep that resource with you as long as possible, all the while not jeopardizing security for the bus factor. So we always make sure that there's a little bit of a backup there.
Right on. Another question just came in. Sometimes the developer is not a fit for a certain project. How do you handle these situations?
That's another great question. We rotate them off. So if for example, you hire one of our resources and they are just not a right fit, whatever that may be, you don't like the way they communicate, you don't feel they're good enough, or you don't feel they're understanding your project, we'll rotate them off and assign someone else to you. And if it's something that's discovered very early, so or a week or two into the project, then obviously we're going to credit you for that time. We don't want you having to pay for someone that didn't work out. So that first week or two, it's super important to make sure that resource is a good fit for your project. and you'll know after a week if you like what's going on.
Do you think it's common in, staff augmentation that a company would put like a junior developer, kind of throw a junior developer on a project? Is that common in the industry? And then what does Simply PHP do in that situation?
Do you mean if a client has a junior developer working, or I'm not
Oh,
sure I understand what you mean.
oh yeah, no problem. Let me clarify. So let's say I'm wanting to get someone to help me staff augment. I want to have more staff on my project.
Okay,
Go
okay.
to ABC company. How do I
Yeah.
know that it's not a junior developer working on my project? Like, and then how
Yeah.
does that differ from Simply PHP? Is that
Okay.
better?
Yeah, understood. That's a good question. So we have a policy of not hiring junior developers. Not because we don't support junior developers. It's not the case. It's our business model is such that it's impossible for us to use junior developers just because we are charging clients for our services, and we cannot charge a client to allow a developer to learn on their project or to learn on their platform. That's number one. Number two, it's just it doesn't work. You can't expect a client to pay our hourly fee for a junior developer. So we don't have junior developers. We've got intermediate and senior developers. It has happened in the past where a client augmented their staff with us, and our intermediate and senior developers ended up mixing with the client's developers, and there could have been a junior or two, which is fine. The client was aware of that, but for us, we've learned over the past 11 years that as tempting as it is, because a junior developer is fantastic, right? You get a junior developer out of school. Salary expectations are very low. They're eager to learn. Great spirit. It's fantastic. We would love to do it. It's just for our business model, it doesn't work.
Right. Right. You talked a lot about, what we pay or what our clients pay us. Can we touch on a little bit of the payment terms a bit? Like if I wanted to hire Simply PHP, what would I be looking at?
Yeah, payment terms again, and you're going to see the theme of our company is flexibility, right? And it even extends to our payment terms. So the way that it works is depending on the client, we can either invoice weekly or we can invoice monthly. A lot of our clients, their accounting systems can't support weekly invoicing, and we understand that. They have the 30-day, 60-day, 90-day terms. We just fit into our clients' payment system. We've been using our risk reversal model for many years now. Risk reversal meaning we don't charge clients anything up front. We don't charge deposits. We just, we work. Clients are satisfied. We send invoices. We get paid. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
I won't mention any hourly fees though.
Don't worry, I won't ask.
Yeah, I should add that it also creates accountability on our end, right? So the worst thing you can do is pay for something in advance. I think that falls into every category except maybe rent. You have to pay in advance, car payments, things like that. But hiring services, to me, it's a red flag when a company is asking for payment in advance, because where's the accountability, right?
Yeah.
I have accountability. We all have accountability here because, the client has to be satisfied in order for them to write that check.
Is that common?
And we do take checks. No, it's not common. No, in the web development world, it's especially freelancers. It's all give me the money in advance, pretty much. I think maybe the larger companies don't charge in advance, but for the most part, there's a lot of payment in advance,
Hmm.
which we don't do.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Another question just from our comments here. Other
Yeah.
than a developer, do you provide any other resources to the client?
Yes. I love that question. So yeah, we provide sysadmin services, right? Server administration. We have 2 full-time sysadmins that are available to our clients. We have a full-time designer that is available to our clients, and everybody else is PHP developers, full stack for the most part, front and back end. Our e-commerce go-to, which I don't know how many years ago we decided that Magento was the e-commerce platform we're going to concentrate on. It must have been about maybe 5 years ago. So Magento is our e-commerce specialization for now.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So
thank
I'm
you.
coming to the end here of the questions I have, but I do have kind of some final thoughts and just
All right.
in general advice, because this is a Q&A. This is about web development, not only about staff augmentation, although we've been talking a lot about it and it's very important. Do you have any keys to success when it comes to these businesses wanting to work in this field, hire in this field? 11
Yeah.
years in the business is a big question, so take your time.
Yeah.
But any keys to success?
Keys to success when staff augmenting, when augmenting your staff, I definitely have a couple. Well, first and foremost, hire simply PHP. No, in all fairness, in all seriousness, even if you don't hire us, I would say make sure that the company you are hiring is not going to subcontract or outsource your needs to a third party.
Mm,
As obvious as this may sound to some, it's something that is very rampant in this industry. It's something that's very common in this industry. I'll give you an example. You're calling a company in New York City, or you're calling a company in Montreal or Toronto, and you have that assumption that the resources that are going to be allocated to you belong to them, right? There's accountability, there's pride, there's the brand. These are my people. I am allocating my people to your project. I'm going to make sure that they deliver. That's often not the case. Often the case is that they are outsourcing or subcontracting and shipping your project to resources that are not employees of their company. They're freelancers, they're in other parts of the world, and that company cannot control them. It's impossible. You can, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, my business partner Raf brought up, there's so many times when we get calls from clients who went through that nightmare. It happens very, very often. So first and foremost, I think the number one tip is to make sure that that company that you're hiring to augment your staff are using their full-time employees, and they are in North America. And like I said, there's countless examples, and it always ends up in a loss of control, lack of quality. It's just bad business. However, it's very rampant because it's very tempting. I could get a call from a client who wants to augment their staff with me, and I'm paying my employees annual salaries with benefits and vacations, and I'm making a margin, obviously, but I can turn around and go overseas and pay someone a fraction of what I'm paying my full-time employees and try to succeed, right? Guess what? You're not going to succeed. It's not going to happen. Another negative about that, even if the people you're outsourcing to in North America, if they're if you're outsourcing to resources in North America that you don't even know. For example, all of the employees at Simply PHP, they're proven, they're known, they've been with us, they've been tested, they have a sense of pride. Whereas if I'm just going on LinkedIn or Googling and trying to find resources at the last minute to fulfill a demand because I want to grow my business, that is also another recipe for disaster, because you're dealing with people you don't know. You're dealing with resources that are not proven for your company. So that's number one. I guess number two, don't pay for anything in advance. Make sure that you're satisfied with what was done. And web development is a little bit different, but there's ways of knowing that, okay, I like my developers. My team has signed off that these guys are actually good. They're getting things done. They set up their environment properly. They didn't go through a lot of challenges getting set up just so they can work. These are good signs that you're dealing with good people. But yeah, I think that's probably my top two.
I love it. That's awesome. And that kind of wraps up everything that we just talked about during this weekly live episode. I think this is episode 9, which is awesome. Tony, do you have any kind of final thoughts? I know you just wrapped up success, but any final thoughts or any questions that you've had that maybe I haven't asked you that you want to share with the audience today?
I don't think so, Kyler. I think we covered it enough. I think it was great. I think that I would just add that what I'm saying in these weekly live podcasts, I'm not just making things up. Really, everything that I say, everything that I mention is knowledge that I've gained in the past 11 years. Dealing with this industry and dealing with clients that call me with certain challenges and certain events that my business partner and I have seen over the past 11 years. We've actually tailored our business model according to what we've seen and experienced over the past decade. It's not something that we made up and said, you know what, I think this would work good. It's literally people calling us, and whether they're a prospect or whether they become a client, and the problems that they've gone through in past experiences with other companies, and also challenges that they've gone through with us. Every challenge that we see and that we help overcome, or we help people get out of, or any experiences that happen to us as a company, is what's made us come up with our current business model. And that's what's been succeeding for us and for our clients. I wouldn't say for the past decade, because it definitely took a few years for us to figure out what was the right solution for us and for our clients. But this is really, I'm speaking on behalf of experience that we've gone through in the past decade.
Wow. Yeah, honestly, Tony, it's incredible, like all that you guys have, the knowledge and the experience you guys have. So thank you so much for answering these questions. Again, this is our Q&A, our weekly live. We do this every Wednesday. We plan to do it every Wednesday. It might be a different face every week, but Tony or Raph will be there. If you guys have any questions you want answered, please submit it, comment on any of the pictures or videos we post, send us an email. We can include that in afterwards in the post. And I think that's it, Tony.
That's great, Kyler. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I really appreciate all the work that you and Raph have done for the studio too. It's just amazing. And do you see a fireplace behind me?
I can see it. Yeah, That's looks awesome. Really good. It looks really good.
I love it. Great job. So next week we're going to be doing Wednesday at noon Eastern. I think that we're going to be talking to one of our senior developers at Simply PHP about GitLab, so GitLab and code repositories. How to set up, not how to set up technically, but how to just set up to make sure that you have proper ownership of your code and make sure you have proper ownership of your business. So that's going to be coming up next week.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.